Good morning on the West Coast, good afternoon on the East Coast, and happy days everywhere in between. Today is Wednesday, July 24th, and as I always say, it's a beautiful day to have a webinar. I'm John Arrington, CEO of the Performance-Driven Marketing Institute, a 501c6 not-for-profit trade association dedicated to protecting and promoting and advancing the direct-to-consumer and performance-driven marketing industry. And on behalf of the entire PDMI family, it's my pleasure to welcome you back to yet another fun-filled and exciting episode of the PDMI Take 20. As a reminder, the PDMI Take 20 is a quick-hitting roundtable discussion led by industry experts on trending topics, all in roughly 20 minutes. It's joined by a duo of incredibly talented industry leaders, including Kerry of Script to Screen and Fern of THOR Associates. And together, we'll be discussing a reoccurring series on how performance marketers are reaching different generations of consumers. Today's panel will tackle the biggest of all generations, baby boomers. However, before we get started, please allow me to do a little housekeeping. If you'd like to ask a question, and we encourage you to do so, please use your questions tab located in your control panel. Also, please note you're welcome to ask questions throughout today's conversation, but we will hold all replies to the end of our discussion this afternoon. Alrighty, folks, with that said, it's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator. He once rode a bull until it fell asleep. He's the fearless Chris Foster. Chris is Vice President of New Business at Modern Postcard, direct marketing agency located out of Carlsbad, California. In addition to his day job, Chris teaches brand strategies at UCSD Extension courses, and he's the chairperson of the PDMI Brand Response Council. As always, Chris, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much. And for the 95th time, because today is our 95th episode of the PDMI Take 20, take it away, my friend. Take it away.
Thank you so much, John, and it's such an honor to be here with Fern and Ken, legends in the industry. And as a note, if you're on top of a bull and it does fall asleep, make sure you get your leg out from under it, otherwise it will crush your leg. Just personal reflection. Anyway, we're talking about boomers today. We are on a course and some series of themes about generational marketing and generational markers. So we're going to start with the boomers. It's a commanding force in the U.S. economy, without a doubt. They hold 53% of the wealth in the U.S., almost $60 trillion in spending power. And comparatively, they're twice as wealthy as Generation X and 10 times wealthier than millennials. And there's got a lot of wealth, right? And all that wealth, studies indicate that this will be the greatest wealth transfer in history. Boomers are poised to hand down the lion's share of this, almost $53 trillion, almost 63% of all the transfers. It's also important to note that the ultra high net worth people, the top 1.5%, they'll contribute almost 42% of that wealth transfer. The thing about boomers too is that they're living longer. Average expectancy is climbing to 75 years, and at 21% of the population, they're a significant part of our trend and our culture. Again, also, some interesting things about the boomers is that they continue to work. In fact, twice as many boomers are working now than compared to 35 years ago. And by 2030, all of them will be over 65. So it's an interesting group, right? They've got money, they're going to transfer wealth, they keep working, they're staying in their homes. And this is a generation that was born out of very, intense political activism, but they're also wanting to have a hard drive work ethic in terms of their whole life building the wealth that they've done. So we're going to be driving into these aspects of this generation. What are their spending patterns? What are their generational markers? And what kind of categories will they see in their purchases, travel, real estate? And how can performance marketers better reach this group? So we're going to start in. Fern, thank you so much for being here. Ken, thank you for being here. Fern, I'm going to start with you. In your experience, have you seen that there's a thread or a theme of messaging that particularly resonates with this generation?
So good question, Chris. Thanks for having me. So here's what I really believe. It's all about education. Education is the key for baby boomers generation. From their shopping habits, baby boomers that demonstrate their interest in valuable products as they choose to buy from knowledgeable, respected brands they can trust. One of the things we looked up is that boomers tend to be less loyal to brands than younger generation, which was a little shocking to us. 36% said that they're not loyal to any certain company. It's 10% higher than the next closest generation. So boomers, as we know, as you said, boomers hold much of their net worth in the financial assets and real estate, and they spend less of their income on housing than the younger counterparts. But the biggest share of the boomers' spending goes into healthcare, ultra important, home improvement, and entertainment. This is more than any other generation.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that is I just read a study about boomers wanting to stay in their homes, and a huge percentage of boomers are homeowners, and that percentage of home ownership is large. And then the question was about, a survey went out about, are you staying in place? Are you aging in place, or you want to move? A lot of them want to stay home, which is actually creating a challenge in terms of the inventory for homes for younger generations.
Absolutely. Is that an open-ended handoff, Chris?
Well, I guess the question that I would ask for you, Ken, is we know that these folks are staying at home. We know that they're not moving. Does that create some particular advantages for performance marketers if they know home addresses, if they know where these people are living, and if they know they're staying in these homes?
Well, I think first of all, I just want to thank you for joining me, and I wanted to say how awesome it is to have Fern on this panel. She's an amazing marketer, an amazing woman. I've worked with her for many years, so awesome to have her. Yeah, that's part of it. It is part of it, but I think it really goes back down to, when you're really talking to these people, and when I say these people, this boomer generation, we currently have like 6 really elaborate campaigns specifically for this category. And being in home, and to Fern's point about home improvement, absolutely, those are things that are important to them as they stay home, or they're keeping, either downsizing, or they're keeping that asset within the family, when you talked about that, that for of wealth. But really it comes down to, from when we look at it as a business, there's very specific things that we're looking for when we're communicating to this market. First and foremost, trust and credibility. That is absolutely critical to this market. Clear, informative messaging. Fern touched on that a little bit. Absolutely. Be clear. Benefits. They don't want to get into the details. They want to get right into the benefits. Be very clear call to actions. What do you want them to do? Be very specific about that. We're very bullish on, when we are talking to this demographic, we have a lot of graphics that are clearly communicating what we want them to know and what we want them to do. So I wouldn't say it is like transcribing it, but if you have the ability, whatever you're communicating, to reiterate that with graphics, to explain what you want them to do, make it super simple, and the action you want them to take, extremely important. Anything when you get to the point where you want them to do some easy navigation, it's got to be accessible and super easy navigation. We like to have personalized custom experiences. For example, if we can explain a product or a service that personalizes, that's going to custom to what their needs are, that is really important. Quality and value, always. Social proof engagement is always important. We really like to help, to Fern's point, the health and wellness focus. As we age, we're paying more and more attention to that. We're paying more attention to our personal and financial security, and we're paying attention to things around our household that are going to make our lives easier, that potentially prevent challenges that we're going to have. So we like those sectors, but it all comes down to those pillars of, you got to be credible, you have to be easy accessible, navigation has to be good, you have to tell them what you want them to do and what you want them to know, and you have to build the trust. You do that with a great brand or a product, and you have made major headways in this marketplace with the baby boomers.
I love that, Ken, and I think that it actually touches on the first thing that Fern talked about when it relates to education, right? It's almost like the education creates the credibility And then the credibility creates the trust to say, okay, now I'll figure out if I actually want to engage with you. And if you make it easy, and if you make the steps clear, then I'll keep following it. And Fern, you had mentioned lack of brand loyalty per se. Do you think that it is then up to the performance marketer to create that instant education, credibility, and at least a moment of loyalty with every single touch point?
Absolutely, it's a must. It's a must for ROI. It's a must, to keep them engaged. It's a must to keep them repurchasing and repurchasing.
All right. So let's dive into that repurchasing. Even though they aren't necessarily loyal per se to a brand, are they loyal to products that work and that they'll order again to the products that they trust?
They do. Absolutely. It's a known fact actually that, if you engage them and you deliver best in class product, they're going to keep re-engaging.
Okay. Ken, I guess I'll ask you.
I can lean on that a little bit. Is another important, and this is an adjunct to what Fern's saying, is that you have to have customer service with with baby boomers. You have to put them in touch with somebody. Customer service is huge, and customer service is right. It is value. It is credibility. It is brand. They want to know that they're being taken care of. You send somebody off onto this wild goose chase on a website, and it's full of friction. To Fern's point, there's no brand loyalty. What are they doing to help me? It's important for marketers as well as brands, when you're talking to baby boomers, to build that trust. Once you get them in the door, it's up to you to build that trust and to answer their questions, be there for them, and that in turn, with a great product, is gonna turn into brand loyalty.
Absolutely.
So, it's interesting. Some of the studies about Gen Z indicates that they seek relationships with brands, right? They're not looking for just transactions. They want this touchy-feely. They want to know that a brand has alignment with their own social values. They will turn away from a brand that doesn't align with their social values. Is that true with this generation, or is it more about getting the job done?
So I believe that it's about getting the job done. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that, there will be several that, vary to that side, but I really, really believe that it's, exactly how you said.
Well, and that's interesting too, because then that lends itself, I think, to the categories you mentioned: home improvement, healthcare, and even travel, to where it's not necessarily an apparel brand or a technology brand per se that you want to have this deep emotional connection with. A home improvement product has to work. Healthcare, of course, has to work. And Fern, I'd like to dive into healthcare. I think that all performance marketers know that there's this tidal wave coming up with Medicare Advantage in the fall, kind of neatly aligns with an election of which boomers are a heavy participant. Do you see in the marketing world, especially with spend and ad slots and inventory, these two forces kind of rubbing up against each other? It's kind of like King Kong and Godzilla showing up in the same place.
Well, I laughed because you said tidal wave. I said, I would never use those words. It's going to be tsunami. It's going to be insane between October 15th, to December 7th. And the breakdown really will be Medicare Advantage, we all know, AEP runs from October 15th through December 7th. But because the consumer, we keep touching them, they've now become very fickle, and they don't order till after the last 4 weeks of AEP. So we're actually lucky when the election is on the 5th. So we'll do a lot of testing those first couple of weeks, but every commercial, which Ken will agree with, is going to be from October 6th to December 7th. It's going to be Medicare Advantage. There's no two ways about it. It's, it'll be touched over and over and over again, So that's what's going to happen between Medicare and the election.
Yeah, it is, as every year, but I think even more this year, Fern. I mean, we have clients where we're in the health and wellness, we're in financial services, home improvement, travel and leisure, technology when it comes to cybersecurity and things like that. All those are really important, but they will take a back seat to figuring out how I'm going to navigate Medicare and that is going to take a backseat. Now, as Fern says, it's a tsunami for a few weeks, but then you're going to get back into those sectors. But they're going to be beating it out, and I think we would all agree that the simplest path that communicates the best, that creates the most value to that person and makes it easiest is going to be the winner.
Oh, I like that. That's actually
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that, you guys, is that it's actually clear, definitive outline of the success factors in marketing to this industry. I guess what question that I would have is there's, I mentioned in the preamble that 20% of folks 65 and older are working. It's double the amount from 35 years ago. Do you think that because these folks are working, of course they're distracted by life and the like, but is a messaging of commitment to work and a messaging of keeping it simple for them, I get, but do you tap into that work ethic at all in terms of recognizing that they might still be working?
Absolutely. Baby boomers want to work. 65 is the new 50, okay? So I started writing down some characteristics. Baby boomers are strong and focused in work ethic. They're typically hardworking individuals, so often define themselves by their professional accomplishments. I know I do. I'm independent, we're competitive, we're goal-oriented, we're resourceful, we're experienced, we're self-assured, and we value relationships. The big motto when I was growing up, my parents constantly said, work hard and you'll get ahead. So as a result, baby boomers value personal freedom and self-expression. People often describe them as the me generation. So I was going to say that to you before. It is absolutely the me generation. They focus on individual achievement and fulfillment, and they like and want to work.
And I'll lean on that as well, to the point of Fern and I like we could not do this a while ago, but we like what we do and we enjoy what we do. We think we bring a lot of value to a lot of companies and to some people that are learning about what we've kind of gone through. And I'm saying her, but in a whole, right? So it's like I have a lot of friends so what am I going to do? Right? I turned 61 this year, and I have friends that are a little bit older, and they're like, well, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. What am I going to do? Just stop? And it's because it's that work ethic that Fern talked about that we grew up with. We had to make it work. We had to grind. We had to do those things. We were just in a different, stage of this country, if you will. And we look at it as I just want to keep going. I want to build wealth. I want to be able to transfer wealth. And one of the things that we're seeing a lot with this market is as you accrue wealth, the ability to have the control of that wealth. I don't want cyber hackers taking my money. Very technological things like LifeLocks and auras and things like that are protecting my investment. That's really, really big. To our point, it's we're working hard for this, but what's going to relate to me is the company that says, I'm going to help you either diversify that, or I'm going to help you understand how to make that wealth be more in future and for future generations in your family, but also how to protect what you have. Mm-hmm. So it all kind of fits together.
Yeah. So I've got a question then for you, for both of you. So Ken, you're 61. You've got friends who are maybe exiting out. You're keeping going. Fern, I know you work, 90, 100 hours a week, some ridiculous amount. Because that's a slow week. That's right. If you're of this generation, do you think that gives you special insight into marketing to those folks because they look and feel like you and your cohort and your peers?
I think Ken and I are just shaking our heads to death. I think we're so aligned on that. We understand it, we live it, we breathe it every day. We still, to Ken's point, we still work hard because we love what we do. We don't have to work anymore. I haven't had to work for 10 years. I've sold 2 businesses, but I love what I do. And but the big thing is I have to make a difference. If I'm not making a difference, I pass on more clients. My teammates get so upset, but I have to know we're going to make a difference. It's not worth doing.
That is actually an interesting thing about what they talk about boomers, where because there was growing up in a time of political activism, and right now having enough wealth, there's a strong sense of how can we give, how can we serve, what legacy will I leave, how can I leave this better? Maybe it's in my family with my wealth generation and my transfer of wealth, but broadly it seems like there's a bigger purpose, like you have the means to make a bigger difference in the world, a responsibility to do so, so maybe that's something we should be doing.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and but I also think it's absolutely that's a great mindset and a great mantra to live that way. But at the end of the day, you still have your responsibility, your financial responsibilities, you have your family responsibilities, you have your company, your business responsibilities. So you still have to, generate what you're going to do to live your life, but also we're much more cognizant of, okay, to Fern's point, what can I do to make a difference here? Is that time? It might be time. It might be knowledge. It might be money. It might be whatever. But if we're going to be doing if we're going to be working as hard as what we're doing to fulfill what we need to do for our families, we want to be able to have that other aspect of that makes us feel like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's what did I do and who did I help that made a difference?
Right. I love it. That's fantastic. That's great insight from both of you. Johnny, as always, goes by in a flash, and we're probably ready for questions from the audience.
And the audience is ready to share their thoughts with you. So go through a few of these together. Although the country's wealth is locked up in the hands of boomers, everybody loves a good deal. Are there campaign offers like negative options, BOGOs, buy now, pay later that boomers tend to respond to well?
So that's a good question. You're seeing more and more breaking down of the payment. So if you're buying a product that's $500, they're willing to take it, 12 deep and have you break it up into monthly payments. I think baby boomers prefer to pay in one payment, especially wealthy baby boomers. They want the product in their hands. They want to use it. They don't want to think about that every month they're going to be touched and hit upon.
I agree. We're not looking to acquire debt, right? So a baby boomer is not looking to do that. So I'm not saying it's not as attractive to have it in payments, but I'm along with Fern. It's like, what's it going to cost? Does it fit into my budget? And I want to get it done with and move on.
I think that's absolutely accurate. And to touch on the Generation Z yang to the yin, or the yin to the yang, however you want to define it. Gen Zs love subscriptions. They love $5 every month being taken out from this streaming service, this reward system, this thing. So the pay over time for them is a no-brainer. They say, yes, gunk, I'll pay over time, but I can see that being the total opposite for boomers. That's great.
And when you think about that, that mindset has created totally different businesses that are extracting your subscriptions out of your life. So that mindset's great, but down the line, it becomes a problem. And smart marketers said, I can solve that problem by getting you to do another subscription to suck away those subscriptions. I'm like, what is that all about?
Yeah, we'll find out about 10 to 15 years.
All right, excellent feedback. Let's try another question. Are boomers shifting response mechanisms with technology? That is, are boomers using mobile, web, new tech options to respond to direct-to-consumer ads?
So, very good question. Okay, so Chris, you're going to love this. It's what is old is new again. Direct mail and postcarding are on the top of baby boomers all of a sudden. It's just as good at a home, deliver successful campaign results to baby boomers. And baby boomers are now opening themselves up to influencers, which they have not before. Okay, they're leaning into digital as a major growth channel. So 3 years ago, digital delivered overall 10% of revenue. Okay, it's moved to 30% today, and I guarantee you by 2027, it's going to be over 50%. And then Ken's going to be very happy to hear this. Everyone keeps telling me linear is dead. Linear is so not dead. I will spend $500 million this year on linear TV. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Fern. It's like I don't even know what people are smoking when they say that. Like, yeah, because you don't watch it doesn't mean it doesn't live, right?
That's right.
And that's fine. And that's why we have this 60 trillion or 60 million or whatever number that you talked about at the beginning, Chris. You know, that's all great. And will that erode over the next 10 years? Yeah, of course it is, but not today, not in the near future, not in you know, kind of what we're going through. But back to your point about boomers and you know, call to actions and things like that. There are three very, very important things that we have tested and know, and I'll save people time and money when you're talking to boomers. It's call now, learn more, download the guide, something. To Fern's point early, education. It's like, tell me what to do, and they will download. They will click to learn more. They will call. Don't give me, you know, those are the triggers that a baby boomer wants, because they'll take the time to download something, to read something, decide if this is me or not. Where maybe a younger generation's not like, it's like they want it quick, they want to go, and that's fine. But a boomer is like, just walk me through this, explain it to me, make it simple, and I'll take the time to do that.
Love it. That's real practical advice. That's great. Thank you.
Let's try one more question. As the boomers are aging, are there any categories that are not working that you found or consider surprising?
Can you jump on this first? I'm thinking. So I'll tell you one of the things that worked during the pandemic, and still consider. I have a very big client, used to be a client, Bolson Brands, and you know, we used to think that the marketplace was younger, and we found out during the pandemic that it's really a 50+ market, and they're the ones who have money, especially expensive products. And we opened up, you know, the funnel unbelievably, you know, during the pandemic, because you're staying home. You wanted the decorations, you wanted your Christmas tree. You know, it was time to say, hey, let's throw away these old things, let's bring new things in. So that's worked well. I mean, obviously health and wellness, you know, whether it's, you know, life or whether it's Medicare Advantage, you know, it's a must. It's absolutely a must. But I'll tell you, I think that the influencer market is going to change a lot of things. You know, collectibles are changing. You know, LifeLock, to your point, Ken, you know, is very, very important, and they're doing different things with subscription-based modeling. So, and I think that's, you know, a big baby boomer age product.
You know, one boomer age product that we thought had a lot of promise was in the CBD space. They've done a study that women 55 and over were actually the largest consumer, the fastest growing consumer group for CBDs, and they were trading out wine for CBD. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but as legislation has created more legalization across the country, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an opening for marketers in the CBDs, or like you said, some of those supplements for that older generation, to make it seem more palatable, like to Ken's point, to educate about what one gummy does in terms of its process, in terms of what it does for you, to create the credibility and the right experience, making it easy and you know non-weird to order. That I still think could be pretty interesting to see its growth.
Well, I think it's going to grow with Schedule 3. I mean, that's going to happen this year. So, you know, and whether you're we just know there's hurdles with that kind of product on television, but
right.
It doesn't mean you can't take a different path. But Schedule 3 is going to change everything.
Alrighty, let me come back in and join you guys to wrap things up. Phenomenal session, Fern, Ken, Chris. What a great conversation today. Thank you so much. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Before we close out, I'd like to take a moment to invite you to join us for our next episode of the PDMI Take 20, hosted Wednesday, August 7th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Also, I want to note that both registration and housing for the PDMI's fall conference, PDMI West, yay, San Diego, scheduled for October 7th through 9th in San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel, is open. There's no better way to support the PDMI events than by purchasing your attendee badges and staying on site at the host hotel. To get your attendee badges and hotel rooms, please visit thepdmi.com. That's thepdmi.com. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. Thanks again, Fern, Chris, Ken. What a great job today. See you all next time. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye.